I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost is with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, this is Christina Byron. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about Jan 6 and the pardons, and some people just flipping out still about it. And, I think maybe they wouldn't have pardoned everyone if Joe Biden wouldn't have gone so wild with his pardons, but they did. So Trump did as well. And so media is still upset about it, but they can keep obsessing over January 6th. It's not going to, solve anything, change anything. People feel how they feel. Trump and other folks have talked about Jan 6ers, and that day is still, burned into a lot of people's minds. And at the end of the day, they still pick Trump over Kamala Harris. And at some point, Democrats are going to have to get over it. I'm not saying like totally forget it was a riot, but the way they act with that compared to so many other things is just insane. And some people are pointing it out. So I got some clips I want to show you guys. Also want to talk about, I'm going to touch on this Oscar situation a little bit. There was a historic Oscar announcement today. There was a man who was nominated for women's category. So they're all like inclusion and happy about all that nonsense, but it's just crazy. I also want to show a clip of the Breakfast Club because Charlemagne said something that I agree with a lot. So I want to go ahead and touch upon that. But before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost to stream and run my website, all that stuff you guys can support. I very much do appreciate you guys. You guys can also support by going to the store and checking out different merch that's available, like the I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For t-shirt. That one's really cool. Also have different books that you guys can check out. And like my series, The Color of God's Eyes, and the sequel, The Song of the Devil's Lips, a historical fiction fantasy. Imagine like the X-Men meets the American Civil War. It's a really good tale. And I'm working on new stuff all the time. So go ahead and check out that series. It's a very fun read, but I have a lot of fiction books that are out. And I have some nonfiction books too, precisely two out, and one of them is, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion, and I encourage you guys to check that out. It's a really good read, and it covers a lot of objections. There's somebody today in my comments who was arguing with a bunch of different people, and I posted this video, I think, on all my socials, my main socials anyway, on Facebook, on YouTube, on TikTok. I didn't post it on Twitter, but because someone had said, when are Republicans going to make concessions? Are they going to make concessions like people are asking Democrats to after this election? And I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but we won. Why did we have to make concessions? Trump won the popular vote by the skin of his teeth, but he won it. That's still like a big deal for Republicans to do that anyway. And he swept every single swing state. So it's a big deal. There's a mandate there, and he's more popular than he's like ever been. And a lot of people are dishing a lot of goodwill his way, and people aren't going to be hung up on every little thing that he does. Maybe the Democrats, sure, they'll be hung up on every little thing that he does, but people, as long as they wake up and the country's not totally broken tomorrow, I think they'll go on and just wait for their egg prices to drop. Okay. So, Trump is just, he has kind of more political power at this point than he really has ever had before, thanks to the downfall of the left. So I don't see why the right would have to compromise right now. But my big takeaway was the right has already made a bunch of compromises. If you look where Trump was when he ran this cycle compared to, and even like in the primary, he didn't bother running to the right of all his competitors. He was always like in the middle. He was attacking people from the left on positions about, entitlement spending and different stuff. He was, had been on the left of the abortion issue when it comes to people on the right since the midterms of 2022. And so, he was already gunning for the middle, and he was the moderate in the race. And so if you would have ran him against Bill Clinton from the 90s, he would have been to the left of Bill Clinton on some issues. Bill Clinton signed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. You had Obama, who did not campaign being pro-gay marriage. That was something that was decided, in their administration. So there's just lots of things that the right has moved on, to the left. The whole country's moved to the left. And people are doing it. Some people are kicking and screaming. I'm not moving, but I recognize the country has very much moved on a lot of different positions. And it's still not enough for the Democrats. They still lied on Trump's positions. And so if this election has taught me anything, it's that you might as well just, stick to your guns and argue your position, because at the end of the day, your opponents will lie about what you believe and what you stand for anyway. So someone in the comments was arguing about how Republicans haven't conceded anything and how they're really, sorry, someone is trying to group chat me. So they were saying with Republicans, they don't actually care about people's rights and all kinds of different stuff. And they brought up Black people's rights and the marginalized and other stuff like that. So I asked the question, okay, I'm a Black person. At what point do you think I got rights? At what point? Is it did I have to meet some kind of qualifier to get rights? And so they said it was red herring because I was obviously moving the conversation to abortion. But I'm like, it's not a red herring. You're saying that you care about Black rights. I'm asking, when do I qualify to even receive that? So TikTok was like shadow banning some of their comments, so I couldn't even see like their first argument. So they had to like screenshot it and make a little video about it. So I replied to them, and essentially their answer was consciousness, and that's not even really their standard, but they think that rights are something that's given by society, granted by society. And as a whole, right now, the society is pro-choice, and they're comfortable with consciousness. Now, I don't know what stats they're looking at, because if there was, I think the consensus is, or the plurality rather, is really centered around 15 weeks. At least that was the polling that came out after Roe v. Wade was overturned, was more like 15 weeks. And people might argue at a lot of times people will say when the baby is viable, which is around like 24 weeks, but they don't say whether they're conscious or not is when they get value. Normally, that I hear a lot of people say that in debate spaces on TikTok, but average people don't go, oh, when the baby gets consciousness. When they listen to a couple of debates, they may come up with that standard, but that's not usually the standard. And so I'm like, well, what is so significant about the conscious experience in the womb that you think that suddenly qualifies me to not be protected, to suddenly be protected against violence, as opposed to like 5 minutes before or whatever? And like, it's not that important to me. And then they said that their opinions are really more revolving around consent instead of consciousness, but they just accept what the society says about it. I'm like, that's not even like where society agrees upon with that issue. But I just thought it was interesting. And at this point, I'm sick of typing, so I'll have to just do another video reply to this person, that you just decided to go along with what you believe is the whole of society, that you believe society grants rights and you're okay with cutting off certain human beings from certain rights that we would consider to be inalienable because that's what society says right now. So I see a lot of problems with that as someone who's like pro black rights, pro black rights, because what would happen in the 1800s when society largely says, hey, I don't think these black people are persons. And that's what society says, and that's what the majority says. The majority gets to say who has rights and who doesn't have rights. So you can't say that black people, I even think they said that black people always had rights, but you have to like argue or whatever for them because you don't actually believe that. You're not arguing that today. And it's not just exclusively a racial thing, because I guess they don't believe that, you know, white people, Asian people, whoever has rights until consciousness anyway. But they brought up black, I'm black, so I went that route. And I just, that's why I don't want people to be able to decide when they can pick and choose when I get rights. The most consistent position is there's only really two consistent positions in the abortion debate. Either they don't get rights, period, and it's in the mother's body, they can do whatever they want, but that justifies abortion up until the moment of birth, until they're outside the womb. And that's just granting women full on right to unalive their offspring just because they're in the body. And there's like a bunch of like issues with that worldview, but that's really the consistent standard, really. And that's why you see the Democrats at large and the pro-abortion lobby just gunning for that position, that there should be no limitations and no, you know, sort of gestational age limits, reasons, or whatever. They all qualify. As long as she wants to have an abortion, she should be able to have an abortion. The rights position, or the right position, should be that if it is a life, then they're entitled to the right to life, and they have a right to not be killed. They have a right to be protected against deliberate violence. Period. And life begins at conception. That's just a fact. And that is a consistent position. Saying 15 weeks consciousness, having these lines that you decide to value that other people might not value, it doesn't make sense. And I don't want you to be able to decide when I'm valuable. That's not, I don't want to put my life in your hands like that. And I'm never going to make the argument that my life wasn't valuable at any point, because how can I even reach the point of being what they would deem as valuable when I reach the level of having some kind of form of consciousness without all the steps that it took to get to that point of development? And I've used this example before. My niece, I think probably last time I mentioned it, she wasn't walking, but she can walk now, and she's quite good at it. And for a while, you know, she was like standing up. You could walk around, but she was kind of too scared to take the step. And even before she really got to that point, it seemed like her legs are, you know, strong, and we'd hold her up, and, you know, she'd stand on our you know, our thighs or legs or whatever, you know, and shake a little bit, just, you know, strengthening her body. But before let's say that, you know, I decided that you don't have rights unless you can walk. That would be a crazy standard, knowing that she would be able to do that. Knowing that it would just she just needs time to develop. She has all the necessary capability of doing that. Well, not immediately the capacity to do that, but she does have a natural ability to do that. She has healthy limbs, and she'll be able to develop and get to that point. So if you decided, nah, she doesn't have rights, I can unalive her because she can't walk, knowing that's just kind of the natural progression of her life, that doesn't make any sense. So people deciding that even though we have this inherent natural ability to develop consciousness, which we don't know enough about consciousness to really, I think, nail all this down anyway. But we know that it's going to happen. You're on a self-directed path to achieve that. It's not like something you have to turn on or flip a switch, or that you can build an IKEA. It's something that's naturally developing, all on its own. So why does it make sense to be like, okay, this is going to be the cutoff? That doesn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense back in the day when people said that black people weren't persons. They just decided that because it was convenient for them to decide that because they wanted their darn slaves. Okay. Okay. And it's convenient for people to decide that the preborn aren't persons at consciousness or viability or whatever because they want to be able to have their abortions. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. So I have to reply to that person, but I do, I guess, thank them for kind of answering the question. I just don't understand how people can't look themselves in the mirror and see that their positions are really monstrous, especially when you're advocating for the marginalized and the weak and the vulnerable and blah, 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 and how you stand up in your soapbox and pretend like you're a good person while you support a policy that kills millions of people a year. Just in the United States. You know, a million every year, not millions, but a million every year, you know? Anyway, let's hop to the stories. I want to start off with this response video of Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I know a lot of people love her. She's not my cup of tea. You know, but this is a great response to reporters who want to hassle her about, oh, I'm sorry, harass her, rather, about January 6th.
Come to the Capitol or do any tours or any meetings here?
Is this all you really talking about is the J6ers that have been pardoned?
Yeah.
Okay, are you gonna talk about the Biden family that got pardoned? No?
I haven't.
Oh, okay, what about the rapers and killers and murderers that Joe Biden pardoned? There are tons of them. Is that a focus at all?
Well, I'm asking about J6.
I know that's what you're asking. I know that's what you're asking about, and I'm not doing this. This insane place up here and all of y'all's obsession with January 6th is absurd. Everybody outside of here is sick and fucking tired of it. I'm serious.
Language.
And so Joe Biden pardons all these murderers and rapists and disgusting people, and then everybody up here has got their panties in a wad because J6ers got pardoned. Like people that walk through open doors. A lot of them walk through open doors. That's it. But everybody here is like, oh, J6. Seriously.
But you've been so outspoken on this issue. I mean,
yes, I have.
J6ers,
and they're pardoned. And thank God, I hope they go live their lives and can reassemble something back together because they have suffered enough. Go do a story on all the Antifa BLM people that never served time. Over 95% of them, seriously. Think about that. And go do a story on these cities that BLM burned to the ground and they never built back. They raised all that money on ActBlue and they never built those communities back.
You don't think it's a fair question to ask you because you've been so outspoken.
I am, it is nauseating. I've seen all the Democrat-run networks ad nauseum about January 6th, and they just can't get over themselves, but they don't give a shit about real Americans.
The speaker just created a select committee to investigate January 6th, so it's not like Republicans aren't talking about this.
No, but it was your question. Are you gonna have J6ers come in? Are you gonna give them tours? Like I'm so sick of you people and all this crap. I really am.
The reason why I asked that is because other people have said that, and so I assumed you would be one of the people that would also be having tours. Just because I know you're close to some of the people.
Because you're assuming. You know, the problem is you people never gave me a fair shot to begin with, and you all these assumptions and all these headlines and all these lies. So you came in asking me, why don't you do a story on what people care about? People care about the border, the economy, energy. They're sick and tired of the foreign wars. They're tired of the hypocrisy up here, and they hate the media right now. They do, I'm serious. You guys have created a situation where you're not trusted and people are sick of you. And it's sad. I'm serious, it's sad. Well, so no, I'm not answering this question because I'm not going down this stupid thing of Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Well, I don't think it's stupid to ask that question. I mean, just you've been so outspoken on this issue, I thought you might want to talk about it. But that's why I asked, so I'm glad I did. Thanks, guys.
She knows she was trolling that journalist. I probably would have asked, like, well, there's some people who said they're going to give tours. I would have been like, who said that? what can I find this video? I think you meant where can you find this video? I saw on Twitter and I liked it, but you guys can't see my likes because they're hidden. So I just reposted it. So if you go to True Black Tea on Twitter, that is my handle, you guys will be able to find that video I just played. So yeah, people are sick of it. They really are. And yeah, I would ask her, like, oh, who said they were giving tours, to see if, you know, she had a real answer. Maybe there's people who said that. But she, you know, people are sick of it. I know why they went to her, because they think she's a little off the wall. Sometimes, you know, green is a little off the wall, but they are obviously obsessed and upset about it. And there's Republicans who don't like it, that they pardoned everybody, and they were talking about just, you know, pardoning the non-violent offenders. But Trump ended up getting, you know, letting everyone off. And I mean, it's definitely easier that way, but I think they might have had more caution about just pardoning everybody. But Joe Biden going on his pardoning spree, there was gosh, there's an infographic that I was looking at and I was sharing with my sisters. I think it was probably when we were in the car on our way back home from DC. I was talking about how many people that Biden pardoned. And so the other presidents had pardon numbers like in the hundreds, like maybe around 200 or so. Obama got into the thousands, but Biden had 8,000 pardons. He had 8,000. And I'm talking about, like, that was comparing people's full, like, 2 terms to Biden's, like, 1 term. And Biden, we know, Speaker Johnson gave an interview, which we didn't get a chance to talk about with each other, talking about how he confronted Joe Biden about something that he had signed. And Joe Biden was like, no, we weren't shutting down, I think, natural gas or something. We were just doing a study. And he's like, no, you shut it down with executive order. He's like, no, that's not true. And Johnson's like, oh my gosh, he probably really doesn't know what he's signing. Now, some people are like, screw you, Mike Johnson. Why didn't you say anything? It's kind of a big deal. You should have ran to the press and, you know, alerted everyone that was going on, which I'm sure they probably just would have not denied, and the press would have called him crazy or whatever. But, you know, he doesn't know all that he's signing. I know, like, the ACLU and other groups or whatever recommended names for him to sign, and I guess they just sign. But some of the folks that he pardoned or gave clemency to were insane. People who robbed their local government of money, people who killed folks, black widows and cop killers. I mean, all kinds of crap. And the cherry on top was him pardoning his brother and other family members, like in the midst of the inauguration day. So when I woke up that morning, actually, I don't think it was the morning. I think it was that night, maybe before I went to sleep. Well, we didn't get to the hotel on Sunday night, which was technically Monday morning, until about 3. And so we were kind of getting ready to sleep and stuff. And so I remember looking at online and Twitter and people's, you know, talking about how he had pardoned Fauci, and he had pardoned, you know, Liz Cheney and the January 6th committee and so on. So thought that was interesting. And I was telling my sisters, I'm like, I don't believe he's not going to pardon his brother. I don't believe that. I'm like, there's going to be another pardon. It's probably going to drop as close to the wire as possible. And so I went to, like, sleep saying, like, I think I saw it before I went to sleep. I might be wrong, but I remember seeing it and talking about it when I woke up with them. like, oh, he pardoned Fauci. I'm like, yeah, I saw that. I'm like, I know he's going to pardon his brother. I know he's going to pardon his brother. That's what I'm waiting for. I know he's going to do it. I know he's going to do it. Which is funny to me that people seem to be surprised on the left, or the media seem to be surprised, or Democrats seem to be surprised, or they're pretending like they're surprised. Anyone who's been paying attention to Joe Biden's corruption could have predicted that he was going to pardon his brother, especially after he pardoned his son for like the span of 11 years. So his brother, who's also, profited and has been part of the family scheme of making money through the name of Biden, of course, he was going to get a pardon too. It just solidifies the shadiness of everything. Now you can say, well, Donald Trump was going to go after these people. Donald Trump didn't go after Hillary Clinton. I can understand people feeling like, okay, well, he let them go and then they went after him, and so now he's going to go full on revenge. I can understand people anticipating that, but Biden thought that was shady if Trump would have pardoned himself and his family members before. That's what he said back in the day to Jake Tapper and other folks. He thought it was inappropriate if Trump was going to pardon himself, and Trump didn't do that. And he could have saved himself a lot of trouble. They probably would have tried to fight it in court or whatever, but he probably could have saved himself some trouble if it held and he pardoned himself and he pardoned other folks in his life. But that's not what he did, and they gave him heck, and he had to spend millions upon millions of dollars in, defending himself legally. And Joe Biden just, got that all out of the way. And as far as like himself, what are people to do? He's old as dirt. And, prosecutors already like said, juries aren't going to convict him or whatever thing because he's too like out of his mind. So, he just needed to pardon his son, pardon his brother and other folks in the family, and they're all in the clear. They're protected. So it was really shady. It was really, really shady. So mentioning like, what about the Biden pardons for all these folks? If you're so concerned about January 6th, what about all these other people? You guys don't have a lot of intellectual curiosity about that. So let me show you guys a few more clips of the news. Well, I just got maybe two that I want to show you guys. Give 1 second. Sorry, my audio was just my audio apparently was coming in through my webcam and not my mic. That should sound better for you guys. By the way, Jocelyn Benson, who's my Secretary of State, announced she's running for governor. And she made the announcement in a government building. So she was questioned like, okay, why are you doing it in a government building, like taxpayer money? And she's like, well, it was cold outside and no one told us it would be a problem. It's like, you're the Secretary of State and you want to run for governor, and it didn't occur to you that this would be inappropriate to do it in a government building. You couldn't just go to a private building and make your announcement. Like, I know it's cold, but we're in Michigan. It's not like you're not used to the cold, but so not starting off great. I definitely don't want her to win. We'll see who else jumps in the race. I'm going to support the Republican, but we'll see who can stop her. But she'll be formidable in the primary, but we'll see who else jumps in the primary. The governor, the Detroit mayor, he's running as an independent, so that's interesting. So we'll have to cover those things. But excuse me, a negative story though for her would definitely be that there was a Chinese national that voted in our election, and there was no way to identify his vote. So his vote counted just as much as my vote did. And he did not have any right to vote, but because of our dumb laws that we changed, and it's in our Constitution, it makes it easier for people to be able to just vote without actually being a citizen, because you can register on the same day to vote, and they didn't catch it. They didn't catch it at all. He like confessed. So it's not specifically her fault, but that's something that she supported, and it did happen on her watch. So I hope that really hurts her. And the midterms have obviously gone poorly for Republicans the past 2 years, but we did just make Michigan go red again, so hopefully she'll be taken out. But anyway, here's a clip of Jim Acosta. Oh, Jim Acosta, who loves Jim Acosta so much. Here he is talking to Tim Burchett, congressman from Tennessee.
And I just want to ask you, if any of these people who were released from prison, if any of them commit crimes in the future, should Donald Trump take personal responsibility for that?
No more than Joe Biden should take personal responsibility for the 14 million people, for Laken Riley losing her life because he didn't have enough guts to enforce
I'm not
the
talking
law
about
and
Joe
back
Biden.
Americans.
If Joe
Well,
Biden
you
pardons
should be.
people
You
and they
are.
reoffend, he's obviously responsible for that.
So I want to start off good. I'm glad he pivoted to Biden, because Biden did a bunch of crazy stuff. Pardoned a ton of people. Already said 8,000 between, I guess, pardons and clemency and stuff. But this is a really stupid argument. These people did not have. It's not like they were repeat career criminals, and Donald Trump is a soft on crime DA who's just deciding to not prosecute people so they can go out and terrorize people. These people, many, came in and they walked around. They walked through open doors. There were people who smashed windows. There were people who attacked cops, and they should have gone to jail. I don't know how long you think it's appropriate for them to be in jail for assaulting an officer. I don't know what the standard is for that, but not flipping forever. So eventually these people are going to get out. So if they reoffend, when, like in the next 20 minutes, is it Donald Trump's fault? If they offend and do something in the next year or so, is it Trump's fault? Next 20 years? At what point do you think we should lay that blame on Trump? For how long? For forever? For forever? He just has to take responsibility for all these people for forever? Is that what we're doing here? And it also kind of makes me think that there's going to be an interesting game from Jim here, and maybe other journalists who are going to make it their life's mission to follow these people in case they do something wrong, and be like, January 6th person stole, a Faygo pop out of Michigan gas station. Is this Donald Trump's fault? Or, just how long are they going to keep their eyes on these people, so they can do stories and lay blame at Donald Trump for, pardoning these folks? Again, it's not like a lot of these people had like a bunch of different priors and were career criminals. They many did participate in a riot, and that definitely got out of hand. That definitely cringe when I think about that day. And I'm not gonna defend bad behavior, but I know people who went there who just walked around and got the book thrown at them. So here's another response.
President Biden changed all this. Remember the 37 murderers that he commuted their sentences? Remember 2 of them, one that he pardoned, the one that he pardoned killed 2 FBI agents. Another one literally beat an officer to death with a hammer. And another one literally tied up a woman who had accused him of rape, tied her up in duct tape, put a center block around her, and threw her over a bridge live. And so you remember that the violence that he pardoned, and I'm just saying that you got to compare both of them, Aaron. If you're going to cover the story, cover both stories. President Biden.
Exactly. But that's not what they want to do. They're just obsessed with the Jan 6 stuff. Insurrection Barbie covered a story. She decided to just pick one at random and start reading. This was interesting. I picked a J6 case at random to review because I wanted to see how bad it was. And let me tell you, the random one I picked did not disappoint. This defendant went into the Capitol and walked down the corridor. He was not accused of violence. He did not break anything. He did not hurt anybody. He was sentenced by a jury to 19 months in prison. He was overcharged by the prosecutor to the point where it should be called malicious prosecution. And a judge rubber stamped every single thing the prosecutor asked for. The most egregious part of these filings was that the government introduced a 22-minute video montage that spliced together key breaches that occurred that day. They introduced that video to a jury even when the defendant in question is only shown on the video for less than 60 seconds. The defendant in question was not violent. He was walking through a hallway in the Capitol building with the crowd. He looked like it was a walking tour in the picture still shot. The remaining 21 minutes shows the most violent portions of the event spliced together. Luckily, this defendant seems to have had competent attorneys who filed a motion to exclude this video. The defendant's lawyers argued that this video montage is highly prejudicial because it shows a jury a 22-minute video where all they see are the most extreme parts of the whole day, but the defendant in question is only on the videotape for 6 seconds and is seen walking around peacefully. Further, attorneys for the defendant argued that the majority of the jury in Washington, D.C. is made up of federal employees. This video is meant to inflame a jury. It has no probative value and therefore a violation of Federal Rule of Evidence 401, which, by the way, they teach like on the first day of criminal procedure in law school. District Court Judge Bates declined the motion and allowed the prosecutor to include the video montage. Remember, they're only in this video for 60 seconds and all they're doing is walking around. I would be willing to bet everything I own that submitting a 22-minute video montage that shows the most egregious acts of violence you can find from that day when the defendant in question is on that video for only 6 seconds is only 6 seconds, not 60 6 seconds, and is seen walking calmly is highly prejudicial and a violation of the defendant's due process rights. This person was found guilty and sentenced to 19 months in prison. Let me repeat that again. This person got 19 months in prison for walking through the Capitol for 8 minutes. It took me 2 hours to read through all the documents that were in this case file. Every motion submitted by the defendant was denied, and every motion submitted by the government was granted. They turned a trespass misdemeanor that would result in a $50 ticket into 5 misdemeanors and a felony charge by charging the defendant with the statute that would have required the Secret Service to rope off the section he was in, which they did not. They also charged him with a statute that would have required them to prove Mike Pence was in the building at the time he walked through that corridor. He was not. And finally, they used an Enron statute that the Supreme Court struck down. The defendant had to spend 2 years and probably hundreds of thousands of dollars in attorney fees for spending 20 minutes in the building and walking through the corridors. And this is just the first case I dug into. Imagine if we had the time to dig into the details of each and every single one of these cases, read all the filings, and compile a report on the amount of due process violations that were committed. You know, it's called journalism, something that only Julie Kelly and a small few others seem to understand how to do as it relates to J6. People need to see the inside of the jail cells. This is so far beyond prosecutorial discretion. This is straight up political persecution. But the biggest problem here are the judges that rubber stamped all of it. That's crazy. That is a crazy story. Let me just double check that it was less than 60 seconds is what she said originally. So I'm not sure if she meant 60 or 60 seconds, but she said 60 seconds initially. So, crazy. Many of these people did not get a fair shake in this at all. Very biased area. And a lot of this happening where emotions were still very high about all this stuff. And much of it was political prosecution. Or political persecution. And yeah, I am not surprised that Trump decided to go ahead and just pardon everybody. I mean, people were questioning it. People were saying they were going to lose their minds if he didn't do it. But he went ahead and he did it. So, I mean, overall, I guess good on him. A lot of people talking about it haven't dug that much into it and just kind of take the hysteria at face value of what the narrative is. But some of these people did get railroaded, and people need to know how much of a miscarriage of justice some of this stuff was. So, as Marjorie Taylor Greene said to that reporter, so many people are so sick of it, and there's other things on people's mind, and that's why, you know, they could scream January 6th till they were blue in the face, but people had other priorities at the end of the day, and this is something that happened, and people want to move on. And I understand politically why people don't want to, but even politically, it's not a winning issue anymore, and it hasn't been for a very long time. It didn't even make it all the way to the midterms. I don't think so. If it did, it played just a little bit of a role, but I mean, people were already like annoyed with it, and it certainly didn't play a role in 2024. Not at all. Anyway, I just wanted to add on before we go to the Breakfast Club and some remarks that they made about the inaugural speech that Elon Musk, you know, he did the "My Heart Goes Out to You" thing, and people were saying he was, you know, saluting Yahtzees, we'll say, and that wasn't the case. Elon Musk has been mocking these folks, and the ADL defended Elon Musk, but he had wrote, "The radical leftists are really upset that they had to take time out of their busy day of praising Hamas to call me a Nazi." Great comment there. And Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, said Elon Musk is being falsely smeared. Elon is a great friend of Israel. He visited Israel after October 7th massacre, in which Hamas terrorists committed the worst atrocity against the Jewish people since the Holocaust. He has since repeatedly and forcefully supported Israel's right to defend itself against genocidal terrorists and regimes who seek to annihilate the one and only Jewish state. I thank him for this. So, people are still tripping over Elon, and it's you guys can push these hoaxes if you want to. People I think are sick of it. There's some people who may believe it, but overall people are really just overall sick of this stuff. Okay, so something interesting, Breakfast Club, Charlemagne, they had a conversation about the inauguration and Trump's attitude. Now, if you saw it, Trump had a very interesting approach compared to his attitude in 2017. I was at that inauguration outside, you know, listening to it. I'm like, oh, this is a really nice speech. It's very aspirational. And, you know, it's talking about the dignity of all people. And he did talk about, you know, putting America back in the hands of the people. And so there's like a bit of shade, and, you know, but it's very tasteful, very, very strategic and tasteful, handled very well. And when I got back to the hotel and heard the media talking about it, they're like, this was so dark and divisive, and they trashed his speech. So I guess this time around, Trump was like, you know what? I'm just going to let it all out. I'm going to tell these people off. I'm going to do it to their faces. And I don't care what everybody says, because they just going to lie about how I feel and what I said anyway. So I might as well just say how I really feel. And the tone was totally, y'all missed, y'all tried me, you failed, so y'all gonna find out. And the shady crap y'all did to me, I'm gonna make sure nobody can do that again, because y'all low down, dirty, like, you know. It was that vibe. He didn't say those things, but he was throwing definitely shade, like, y'all, we got all these disasters going on and messing up with the aid, and we got the fires in California, like all this nonsense. Y'all been just jacking up the place for the past 4 years, and now I'm here. You know, it was just very partisan compared to, you know, his former speech, or I guess, you know, even other speeches. So Charlemagne said he liked it. He liked it. So I want to go ahead and play his response.
For telling the truth, because
I'm not mad.
Because the reality of the
whoa.
situation is Republicans treat Democrats the way Democrats should treat Republicans, and I've been saying that. They want to be nice. You know what's so ill about what happened this weekend? Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high. Michelle Obama decided to go low and say, F all of y'all, I ain't showing up. But y'all still going high. For what reason? Michelle Obama is letting y'all know, listen, I believe this man is a fascist. I believe this man is a threat to democracy. I'm not about to show up and play nice with y'all. But y'all still going high, and for what reason?
Yeah, you're right. 4 years ago, he wouldn't even get in a car with nobody. He said, I'm not even coming.
Yo, it was ill to me. And you know why? Because he said the election was stolen. Donald Trump said.
He still says it.
He still said. So why? So you know why I respect what he did in 2020? Because he said something and he acted like he believed it, unlike the Democratic leaders that we have now. If you say something, act like you believe it. Michelle Obama said something and she's acting like she believes it. Barack Obama, the opposite. President Biden, the opposite. I don't respect that. I respect Donald Trump up there giving his inauguration speech and telling all of them to their face, y'all ain't pissed.
Yo, it was such an
I don't like none of y'all.
It was such an Elite Housewives moment. Like, you couldn't. I was watching. I'm like, man.
I wanted somebody to say something. I wanted somebody to say something.
They didn't even move their face.
No.
I'm like, I'm not gonna get a face from Kamala. Nothing.
And his
like,
base loved it.
Yo.
Barack Obama walked in, they booed.
Booed him.
The Clintons walked in, they booed. Like,
Well, how about the fact that he?
Yeah. So I agree with Charlemagne there. Well, let me point out what I don't agree with. He said that Republicans will just act, you know, he wants Democrats to treat Republicans like Republicans will treat Democrats. So he thinks that Republicans are just more honest about being mean, and Democrats will take the high ground. I don't know what world he lives in, but Democrats, they don't take the high ground, and they may. Now he brings up, you know, the fact that Biden showed up and Obama is there, so they're playing nice or whatever to the face, but they did all, but they'll smile in your face and do shady stuff behind your back, and that's messed up. And he respects Trump because he'll just be, you know, straight up do stuff to your face. But Democrats do shady, mean, underhanded stuff all the time, and they are not some kind of moral betters. So he has like things twisted in his mind, but specifically about the inauguration, people were upset, or, you know, about Michelle not coming, and people were talking about her. And I don't think she herself has said why she didn't show up, but there were reports, like in People and stuff, that people close to her said that she didn't want to be there. She didn't want to be there because she didn't want to be at Trump's inauguration. And if people are mad about that and don't find it to be classy or whatever, I'm sorry. I think it's fine that she didn't go, because I don't think you should say all the stuff that you said about this man and then get up and go to the inauguration like everything is fine. Like, I guess you could suck it up for the country, but you said what you said, and it just leaves people confused. So I'm with Charlemagne there, that you said all this stuff, so I'm not gonna go there and just smile and shake hands and whatnot. Like, no, we are not friends. We are not cool. After, like, the people can have like political disagreements, but for so long, especially on the left, it's like, oh, you don't agree with me? Okay, that you're evil. You're wrong. Like something's morally wrong with you. Oh, you don't agree with me on taxes or minimum wage? It's because you're evil. It's been so personal. And some of you might be like, Christina, sometimes you say people are evil. No, just abortion is an evil thing. If you support that, that is an an evil thing. But but if you disagree on like economic stuff or things like that, and you just like, you're evil, you're terrible, we got to be enemies over issues like that, when we could just talk and debate and test each other's ideas. And maybe you're misunderstanding me, or we can at least like maybe come to some kind of understanding of each other's positions, and maybe we just see the world in a different way. But it doesn't mean that someone is evil. Like when people say like, oh, you can't be a Democrat and be a Christian, I'm like, we believe that's not necessarily the same. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that. Now if you believe in like hyper progressive stuff that is like antithetical to the gospel and antithetical to the Bible, then yeah, you're not actually a Christian. But if you believe in like, oh, I'm going to be a Democrat and be a Christian because I believe in giving to the poor and we need to support all these social programs, and those Republicans want to cut it and stuff, which doesn't seem to be the case right now. But I can understand where you're coming from. And my rebuttal to that would be, as Christians, we have a responsibility to reach into our own pockets and give to the poor. And you voting to confiscate other people's money so you can distribute it to other people isn't actually charity. So we are compelled to do the right thing. Like Ron Paul would say, you can't force people to do stuff for you. That's slavery. But he himself, as a doctor, would give free eye exams and other things like that for those who are needy and can't afford it, because his Christian conscience compels him to do that. So that's what I would argue is what we should do as Christians, not have the government try to do our Christian work for us. So that's just a disagreement that we may have, that we can come together and debate that. But I'm not going to say you're not a Christian because you're I think improperly viewing the lens of where your politics should be versus your actual activism yourself. So we can debate about that. I don't think you're evil and not going to heaven because of those issues, you know. So we can debate about stuff, but so much like, you don't agree with me, oh, you're just the enemy, and that's not a good place to be in. And it's been like that for a while. But some people, they just talk and they don't actually believe it. You know, they run their mouth and they don't actually believe it. And then they get all together and be friends and stuff. Like my sister would tell people, like, don't ruin your relationships over the election, because these people be friends at the end of the day. Obama and the Bushes, they'll go hanging out and stuff. Like, don't break your relationships over politics. And she worked for the Trump campaign. And so she went to a barbecue, you know, with a bunch of different people on the left, and they were just like, we're not going to talk shop. And they all had a good time. They disagreed on policy and all kind of worldviews and stuff, but they had a good time. They're not breaking up their relationship. So why are you breaking up your relationship with your mom and your dad and your siblings and your friends over politics? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. For some of these people, it's so freaking theatrical. They change their politics and how they'll talk about stuff from news station to news station. They'll say something different on MSNBC versus when they go on Fox versus when they go on CNN. It's so performative. When they do their different questioning in the Senate and they're trying to say things so they can put out a fundraiser appeal, it's so freaking theatrical. It's so theatrical, and some you win, some you lose, you know. But Trump was, you know, he's more like for real. Say what's on his mind. You know, if you say good things about him, I think he's quick to forgive, a little too quick to forgive sometimes. But if Michelle didn't want to be near that man because she like legitimately doesn't like him, and I believe she legitimately doesn't like him, that's fine. I don't believe that they all think that he's such a big threat to democracy like they've been laying out. And I've laid out a good case on why they're the ones who are the big threat to democracy. Like they're talking about, peaceful transition of power, when they were undercutting that man, the time he was running. You're spying on his campaign, trying to figure out like the Logan Act to set up, and go after different people in his administration. Like that was what Biden wanted to do. They undercutting him and trying to delegitimize him, knowing that the Russia collusion hoax was Hillary Clinton's dumb thing that she started, and not saying anything. Biden, you know, trying to push the idea that the very fine people hoax, you know, knowing that that wasn't true. And I've seen reporters correct him and he still repeated it. And a lot of people lost respect for Obama, you know, for repeating that lie and so on. So so much of this hate is orchestrated. Like there's plenty of things for Obama to say negatively about Trump. He didn't need to go ahead and bring up the lies to throw a little bit of sauce in there. There was a scientist where a bunch of people tried to debunk something that he had said. Maybe it was Einstein, where there's a bunch of scientists that came up to him and was like trying to debunk him. And he was like, if what you guys were saying was true, if you guys were right, you didn't need all these people. You just needed one person. You just needed one person. And Obama, if he had legitimate criticism about Trump, which he said things that some of them like, okay, he has a point there. He has a point there. That thing actually did look bad for Trump when he did that. I think he mentioned like Nick Fuentes going to Mar-a-Lago. But when you mix that in with the very fine people hoax, you look like a jerk. You look insincere. You look like a liar trying to game the people. And he lost a lot of respect for people who had the world of respect for him and damaged his legitimacy. So Charlemagne had talked about seeing Obama laughing it up with Trump. I wouldn't have been laughing with Trump if you saying this man's a threat to democracy and a fascist and all this stuff. No way, Jose. No way. It couldn't have been me. Wouldn't have been me. I don't care how funny that man is. But apparently he's hilarious. You know, we know that he's funny. I haven't had but people who see him in person have said that he's just so funny. Ivanka Trump said that her mom made him look PC, and I was like, oh my gosh. But you laughing and smiling, it couldn't have been me. It couldn't have been me. You know, so I do think it's a little bad, looks bad, because Obama was the only one who went there and didn't have his wife there. So maybe she should, if he was going to decide to go there, some things you go and you support your man and you just there. And he, at the end of the day, he was a former president and you are the former first lady. So I don't think it's a great look that Obama was there by himself and she wasn't there. But some people are like, is something wrong? Is she sick or something? Because she wasn't at Carter's funeral and she, you know, and she wasn't there. I don't know. I maybe she just didn't show up because she didn't want to go. And if she didn't want to go, that's fine. At least be for real. But Trump decided to be for real with those people. And after all the stuff that they did to him, you know, I can understand. You know, talking about the political persecution and all that stuff, because it's legit. It happened, and it sounded more like a campaign speech than an inaugural address. But you know, he's in a room full of his enemies who tried to put him away. Not only tried to put him away, some people tried to take his life. Well, they're saying that he's a threat to America, a threat to democracy, and people try to take his life. So the man said what he said. Man said what he said. So I respect him for being honest. You know, I'm a little, just a tiny conflict about Michelle for the most part. If she feels the way that she feels, I ain't got nothing against her for not showing up. It's just, you know, part of me is like, maybe you should have showed up for with your husband. You know, my mom went to stuff, not a ton of stuff that she didn't want to go to, but if my dad really wanted her to go, she would, and then she would get dressed and she would go. So maybe she should have just took the L for the team. But nah, I wouldn't want to show, especially since he set the precedent of not going, because he didn't go to Joe's. Which, by the way, him not going to Joe's inauguration is what got him kicked off Twitter. He had tweeted something about, MAGA will never be disrespected or something. And he tweeted that he wasn't going to the inauguration. And Twitter was like, okay, well, him not going to the inauguration signaled that it would be safe to attack. Like, who was thinking that from that tweet? Nobody. But when the girl said that Trump's inaugural speech was a Nene Leakes moment, if you don't know Nene, she was on the Apprentice, and she was like, I said what I said. So you've probably seen that GIF before, at least. So anyway, last thing I want to mention before I let you guys go is that the Oscar list did come out today, and there's a movie that apparently is not very good. I haven't seen it. A friend of mine who does movie reviews was like, the praise for this movie is so overblown. But Carla Sofia Gascon is a dude. He's a tranny, and he made Oscar history by being the first trans person ever to ever be recognized in the best first openly trans person ever to be nominated in an acting category. Recognized for Best Actress for the leading role in a musical Netflix film, Emilia Perez. And I hear this is really overrated. I don't plan to see it. And he's got nominations for SAG and Golden Globe and BAFTA for his performance, but for the Oscars in an acting category, I know this may be historic, but it's really not unusual anymore to see men taking away opportunities from women. We see that too often. So this is another one in the pile of another man who's taking away a spot that rightfully belongs to a woman. Every single woman who has acted is more qualified for this position than this dude right here, because this is not his category. Now, it's not like sports. It's not like, men having a super advantage over women in sports, like with Riley Gaines and Leah Thomas. But if it doesn't matter what the sex is when you're in a category, then just take away the categories. Just take away the categories and just have the best, actor/actress. But we have best actor, best, supporting actor, and best actress, best supporting actress. And he is in the wrong category. He's in the wrong category. But I do not expect the Oscars to reverse course, and Hollywood to reverse course on this kind of madness anytime soon. Excuse me, just because we are seeing a big cultural shift doesn't mean that it's going to go everywhere. Trump is, he did the executive order with the 2 genders. He mentioned it in his, inaugural address. And he got to work. They're starting to dismantle DEI. People are flipping out about it. They're sending the DEI staff in the administration, home with pay, but they're sending them home as a restructuring stuff. So a lot of this stuff is going away, but I don't know when everything is going to catch up with Hollywood, because this is one of their little pet films, and when they have a little pet film, they give it a lot of praise. It got a lot of nominations, so I don't know if it's going to sweep or do really, really well at the Oscars, but I guess it might, because it's ticking off a lot of boxes that they like and they enjoy, and that they get to get to have something historic. But my friend Savvy was like, he didn't do better than other leading ladies to deserve or be in this category. Here we go. The praise for this movie is nonsensical, but I'm also not shocked. It's not that good. He was not that good. He certainly wasn't better than Angelina Jolie, Nicole Kidman, or Tilda Swinton. All of this for a narrative. It's a clown world, is what This Is Savvy said. So, Savvy just like nailed like pretty much all the Oscar predictions last year. It was pretty impressive. But she goes to a lot of movies. She's a legitimate like film critic. So I don't always agree with Savvy, but I assume I probably wouldn't care too much for this film, but crazy world we live in. Anyway, that is it for today for as far as the news goes. And I still have yet to tell you guys about the inaugural ball and all that stuff. So I'll try to prioritize that tomorrow. So we'll catch up tomorrow with some more news. I have so many Jocelyn Benson stuff coming across my feed. She accidentally said that she was going to raise cost on the middle class. Not on the middle class, but just raise costs. So it was a little slip of the tongue, but I don't want this woman to win. I don't want her to win, man. I'm so sick of these top 3 women who've just gripped our state for all these years. 8 years. Anyway, thank you guys so much. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost to stream, run my site, all that good stuff you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it. Check out different merch that we have available at the store, like different t-shirts, and we've got different mugs that you guys can go ahead and check out, like the black tea mug, and we got the You Are Not That Special t-shirt, and we do have that on a mug as well. And you guys can, I don't know if anyone still wants the pumpkin spice season, but you got to be ready when it pops back around again. So I did draw that little chibi Trump myself. So go ahead and check that out. March for Life is tomorrow, I think. I got, pro-life shirts you guys can check out. And of course I have my book, Of Course God Is Blatantly Against Abortion. And I encourage you guys to go ahead and check that out and read that if you have not. So God bless you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.